Hello, let's do the New York Times Medium Sudoku for April 21st, 2024. For the medium Sudokus, I do a very systematic and approach to solving the puzzles and explain the techniques in depth as I go. As a result, these videos are longer, but hopefully more instructive for those who are newer to Sudoku. So if that describes you, hopefully this video is helpful for you. I do this every day, so if you get stuck on the medium, you are welcome to turn to my videos to learn how you could have approached it to not get stuck, or maybe just get unstuck. All right, and I always provide a link to solve the puzzle yourself in this Sudoku Pad software, which I find has more features than the built-in New York Times Sudoku software. So it is free. It is a web-based software, and you can check the link below to try it yourself. And I'm going to get started right now. Okay, the first thing that we do in our systematic method is we are going to go band by band, looking for a very specific thing. So what is a band? Well, a band is a row of 3 boxes like this. There's 3 bands in the puzzle. 1, 2, and 3. We're just going to go in that order. Doesn't really matter what order you go in as long as you hit all 3 of them. And what we're going to do is we're going to look for repeated givens. So, for example, this 7 and this 7 are repeated in the band. We want to have exactly 2 of them. So we don't want 1 of them, we don't want 3 of them. If you find 2 of them in the band, then that means that there is 1 box that they are not in. And that is going to take that digit out of 2 of the 3 rows of that box. And so that has limited, in this case, the 7 to just the middle row of the box. And then what we do is we then look to see which one of those it can't be in as well. So it can't be in this 1, where the 1 is occupying already. And then we look down and we look for 7s down here. We see we have this 7 here. So it actually can't be in the middle either, because you can't repeat 7s in the row or the column. And so we end up with only 1 cell left for 7 to be. This is the best case scenario when we find this. It means that we can place 7 in the box. What we have found is what's called a hidden single 7. It's a hidden single in the box. What that means is that the box needs a 7 still, and there is only 1 cell left that can be 7, a single cell left. So it is a hidden single, because it was hidden information in the box that we didn't necessarily know, obviously, but we discovered and found that there was only 1 place for 7, and so we placed that 7. Now, when we place a digit, we do want to follow up on the digit, but when in my systematic method, I only follow up on things we've already scanned for. So since this was the first thing found, there is no follow-up for this 7. Because we will discover it later as part of our systematic process, and I'm trying not to skip ahead in the medium solves. Okay, so how do you find repeated digits? It seems obvious, just look for repeated digits, but you can do it the fast way, or you can do it the slow way where you keep rechecking the same things. So the fast way is pick the box that has the fewest givens. That's why I started with 7 here. And just compare those givens to the other 2 boxes. So in this case, just the 7, we found the 7. Then you only have to compare the 2 other boxes against each other. So just read through the digits. 1, 4, 7, compare that to this. 1, 6, 7. We already did the 7, so we can ignore it. But the 1 is another repeat. So we have these 2 ones looking in here. So 1 is left in this top row, but this 7 occupies one of the spots. So there are 2 places for 1 in this box. So we can't place the 1, but we can notate what we've discovered. And the purpose of notations is to remind you of what you've already found so that they have meaning to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the corner mark mode of Sudoku Pad to put one corner marked 1 into both of these cells. And what the corner marks are used for is to tell us that within the box, we have limited that digit to just those 2 cells. So the cells that the corner mark exists in, those are the only cells in the box, and it's always a box-centric marking. The only 2 cells in the box that can have a 1 in them. Now, when do we corner mark? I would not recommend corner marking every single digit. Instead, only corner mark digits that have been reduced to 2 places in the box, or you are welcome to also do 3 places in the box if they are all in the same row or column. I do not recommend doing anything beyond that. You're never going to mark if there's 4 places in the box, and you're also not going to mark if it's 3 places, but they're not all in the same row or column, like say it was these 3. Okay, so that is how corner marks work, and it is extremely powerful. You'll see later in my solve just how powerful that is. And that's it. Those are the repeats for that band. You can do this in probably 15 seconds. Probably less, probably 5 to 10 once you get fast at it. Obviously, I took my time and explained, and it took I'm 4 minutes into the puzzle. But let's keep going. So we're going to look for repeats. I picked this box here because it's 3 givens, 5, 8, 9. So this box has, let's start with 5. Let's just go in order. This box has a 5. Those look in here. So we can corner mark 5s in one of these two. Now we do the 8. This box also has an 8. And we can corner mark 8s to these two. Now this is a situation that I want you to recognize as soon as you place that 8 corner mark, it should have triggered something for you. I want you to think about what we have just said about this box in terms of 5s and 8s. Okay, now that you've thought about it, here is the way I think about it. This box needs a 5, and it has been limited to these 2 cells here. What the 8s are telling us is that the box needs an 8, and the 8 has been limited to the same exact 2 cells. How many cells do we need for a 5 and an 8? And the answer is 2. We need 2 cells to place the 5 and the 8 in this box. They're going to occupy 2 of the cells. Well, guess what? These are the 2 cells they will occupy. They cannot occupy any of the others, and they need 2 cells. I can't put both 5, 8 in this cell or both 5, 8 in this cell. Therefore, these are what's called a hidden pair. What hidden techniques do in general is they tell you those cells that you thought could be more digits actually can only be the digits involved in that hidden technique. So the hidden single, this 7, we could have put, say, a 5 here, right? There's no reason to think directly that there couldn't be a 5 in this cell, but it had to be 7. Therefore, it was 7. So now it can't be 5. Same thing here. We would think that, so let's take this cell here. We would think this cell could be a 1. Right? I can place a 1 here. It doesn't even turn red. I could have a 1 in the row. I don't have a 1 in the row, the column, or the box. And so there's no reason from basic Sudoku rules to think that that couldn't be a 1. However, with this hidden 5-8 pair, we have removed anything other than 5 or 8 from these 2 cells. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert those corner marks to center marks. We can get rid of the corner marks to save some clutter here. Now, what do I use center marks for? Well, a center mark is cell-centric. It is saying this cell, it's going to end up being a value, right? Every cell ends up with a digit placed in it, a value placed in it, whatever term you want to use. And what the center marks are telling us is what the candidate values are. What are the possible values left that could actually go in this cell? And the answer for this cell is now 5 or 8 only. Same with this cell. This cell will be 5 or 8 only. This cell cannot be, for example, a 1. Because if it was a 1, then we would not have enough room in the box for both 5 and 8. So 1 was removed. So the center marks are a great way to remind us that a cell is particularly restricted. I typically will only center mark a cell if it is down to 3 or fewer candidates. And this has been reduced to 2. This has been reduced to 2. It's the perfect thing to center mark. Okay, so that gave us this hidden 5-8 pair. And the thing to think about when you follow up on finding a hidden technique like this, think about what digits were removed from those cells and whether that's helpful. So for example, this cell here, what was removed from it? Well, 1 was removed from it. So I want to think about where 1 goes in this box now. Well, I happen to have this 1 here looking into it. And then this isn't 1 anymore. So actually we have reduced 1 to only 2 places in this box, these 2 cells. And when we're down to 2 places in a box, we can use corner marks to remind ourselves of that. This cell already couldn't have been 1, so it's not interesting, right? But we have 2 removed from both of these. So we can again think, where can 2 go in this box? And we can also think about where can 2 go in the row, because they share a row as well. So let's think about the box first. In this box, this 2 here looks in, and these can no longer be 2. And so 2 is down to 2 places in this box. We can also think about the row. Where can 2 go in the row? Well, they can't go here anymore. And this 2 in this box says it can't repeat in the box, so not these 3. And it's not this 9. And 2 isn't already in the row. So we can corner mark 2s over here. And you may be asking, well, I thought you only used corner marks to designate where it could go in the box. You just used corner marks to designate where it could go in the row. Well, I recognize that the only places it could go in the row both shared this same box. So let's go over 2 different pieces of terminology that are both going to explain what happened here. The first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go back to these 2s and I'm going to explain pointing. So if I ever say the word pointing, Basically what that is we have limited a digit in a box. In this case, we've limited 2 in this box, and that affects its row or column. Everything can be rotated 90 degrees in Sudoku, right? Boxes don't change, but rows turn into columns when you do that. So in this case, though, it is the box affecting the row. So these 2s, if you were to kind of draw a line between these 2 cells, they would line up in this row. And so they point at the rest of the row and say, no more 2s. And the reason for that is we know this box will have a 2 in it. Where will the 2 go? Well, we don't know exactly, but we know a little bit about it. We know it's going to end up here or here. Those are the only 2 choices. So if those are the only 2 choices, what do those 2 choices have in common? That's a very common thing to do in Sudoku logic, is I have 2 plus choices. What do all of the choices have in common with each other? In this case, both choices are in row 4 here. So no matter where the 2 ends up, it will be the 2 for row 4. Therefore, row 4 does not have another 2. Importantly, it doesn't have a 2 in these 2 spots here. We already know this 2 looks in to take 2 out of these. So if I wanted to corner mark this box, actually the reality is 2 is only in these 2. We can also think about it another way. We can think about it as claiming. Because we said this row 6, needs a 2. And it's going to end up here or here. You're going to notice this almost feels the same. But in this case, it's a row affecting a box. Very, very similar techniques, though. Some people even call it the same name. Some people call this pointing. Some people will just call both techniques locked candidates because the candidates have been locked to a specific row, column, or box. So these 2 quarter mark 2s, what they are telling us is that this row is going to have a 2 and it will be in one of these 2 cells. What do those 2 cells have in common? Box 4. They both are in box 4. Therefore, box 4's 2 will also end up over here. Wherever the 2 ends up, here or here, that's going to eliminate 2 from the rest of the box because the box can't have more than 1 2 in it. So therefore, these are not 2. It's the same deduction that we got from here. But that does mean that actually we can use corner marks here because we have actually reduced the 2 to just these 2 cells in the box via the row. Okay, so that is pointing and claiming. So very, very nice. Now we were thinking about what digits were removed from this hidden pair. Notice how useful it has been. Even though it's taken us some time to think about it, it's been very fruitful. So 3 was also removed from these cells. I'm just going 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm ignoring anything that they already couldn't have been, right? So 3 was removed from these cells. I am seeing that any of these can be 3, though. And I'm also seeing that these can be 3. Neither of those are worth marking. This is 4 places in a box. We never do that. And 2 places in a row that aren't in the same. Notice we have this 3 here and this 3 here, in case you aren't seeing why it's only these 2. These do not share a box, so we can't really mark that. It's interesting, and you might want to remember it, but there's no marking that we're going to do for that. Okay, 4 is already in the box, not helpful. 5 is already marked in the 5-8 pair. 6 and 7, they already couldn't be. And 8's marked in the pair, and 9 is already in the box. So the only digits that have been removed, we've already looked at. And that's the follow-up you want to do for a hidden pair. You can also look at the columns, because this was removed. The 1, 2, and 3 were removed from these columns as well. But there's not much to do with that. The columns are pretty empty, so I kind of skipped that. But it is something you can look at and use your judgment on whether you think that's helpful. All right, so we only had done the 5 and the 8. We still have the 9 in this box. You always want to be able to backtrack to what you were doing before after you follow up. So we do have a buddy 9 here. Now here's something else I'm going to point out. We didn't even need a buddy 9. This row was already filled with digits. So if this row is already filled with digits, all you have to do is look at the 2 rows they aren't in and try to find any givens that aren't already in the box. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of anything that's not useful. And we can consider this 5, 8 placed. We can also consider these 2s placed, but actually 5 and 8 and 2 are already in the box. So we don't have to worry about that. 8's already in the box. 4 is not. 7 is. 9 is not. So the 4 and the 9 are the interesting digits here. And the reason for that is they all have automatic buddies because this row is already filled with digits that these aren't. So this 9 looking in, we didn't even need this buddy 9. We can still corner mark 9 in one of these 2 cells. And you always want to follow up on that because you had a fake buddy, you need to find where the real buddy would be in this box. But we already have the real buddy, so we don't need to follow up. But the 4 looking in, we are going to follow up on. So 4 looks in, these aren't 4, right? So we have kind of a fake buddy. But we want to find where the real buddy was. It has to be in one of these two cells. Because these 4s, remember, these are going to do something called pointing. Or these 4s are going to do something called claiming. But pointing is often easier to see. So these 4s point into this box saying these can't be 4 anymore. Remember our pointing logic. We've limited the 4 in this box, and that affects the row. This 4 looks in as well, and this 4 looks in. So actually, we do know where 4's buddy is. 4's buddy is exactly right here. It's a hidden single in the box. And so now you can see we did have a 4 buddy that caused this, right? It just, because we knew it couldn't be in this box, and 4 is always going to have a buddy in every box, because every box will have a 4 in it. We needed to find the buddy in this row, in this box specifically. So that's a really good way to think about that when you have a row filled like that. Okay, and we are only paying attention to bands. We're paying attention to horizontal logic right now. Don't worry, we're going to do the same thing vertically soon. But I find that in these medium solves, if we go systematically, we don't. I'm able to explain things one at a time, right? And then when we do the verticals, it's just a reinforcement of what we already just did horizontally. Okay, so I finished this box in terms of finding buddies. Now I'm going to look for buddies from this box. And actually the 4 and the 9, you just use your memory maybe to remember you already took care of those, or you can just look and see you did. And then 2 7s are buddies. And then we also have this 7 way up here looking down. And so there is only one place in this box for 7. So we can place that 7. All right. And there's not much follow-up to do on this very first pass, because rarely will these digits affect, like we haven't vertically scanned yet, right? So how can they horizontally affect this box up here? But we're going to start following up a lot more pretty soon. Okay, before we move on from this band, the last thing that I want you to do is look to see if there are any rows that have, or boxes that have been reduced to 4 or fewer open cells. So a prime example of that would be row 5 here, this row. It has been reduced to 3 open cells. Now, why is that interesting? Well, that means there are only 3 digits left to place in this row. They're going to end up in these 3 cells. And remember I said it's useful to center mark cells. Remember, we use center marks to say what candidates are remaining in a cell. It's useful to center mark them if they're down to 3 or fewer. These are by definition down to 3 or fewer because there are only 3 digits left that the row can even have. So what we want to do first, we want to think about what are those 3 digits. Well, we need a 1. We have the 2. We need a 3. We have 4, 5. We need a 6. We have 7, 8, 9. So 1, 3, and 6 are the 3 digits remaining. And I just want to look up and see, like, does the box or does the things above and below, specifically in these columns, do those contain ones, 1s, 3s, and 6s, to see if there's anything super interesting going on. The only thing I see is this 1 here. I don't see any 1, 3, or 6 affecting these other cells, but I am still going to mark it. So we can mark 1, 3, 6, and we can just remove the 1 here. Oh, I missed this 6 here. I'm sorry. There is this 6 here, removing 6 from here. And now we can just look to see if that has any effect due to the rest of the grid. Like, we're looking for pairs, we're looking for triples, which I'll go over when we find this was a pair. We're looking for naked pairs and naked triples. And if I find any, I probably will in this puzzle, I will explain that. But you're looking for matching cells, basically. So this 1, 3, 6, I'm not seeing anything immediately, but I think it's worth marking. Now, this box here is down to 4 digits. When it's 4, we don't automatically mark it, but we want to single out cells that are down to 3 or less. I already know this one will be down to 3 or less because it can't be the 2. We already know that we corner marked the 2s here, so this can't be the 2. So actually, I can just reference my center marks and my corner mark here to know it's 1, 2, 3, 6, but you can always double check that it's 1, 2, 3, 6, and it is. So this one is not the 2, and it's also not the 3, so it's down to only 1, 6. This one's not the 3, and neither of these are 6. Actually, because of this 6 looking in, we've just noticed that 6 is in one of these two, so we can corner mark that. So these are only from 1, 2, 3, and this one's not a 3. So this is 1, 2, this is 1, 2, 3. So we could mark all of them. Same thing here. All of these are markable because the top ones, the bottom ones aren't 9 and the top ones aren't 4. So what are the digits left? Well, we need a 1, 3, 4, 9. And I can see the 1s looking down like this, putting a 1 in one of these two, and the 3s looking up like this, putting a 3 in one of these two. And we're going to find that these corner marks are exhaustive because we've marked all 4 of the digits. So we can just say this is 1, 9, this is 3, 9, this is 3, 4, this is 1, 4. And I don't, I'm going to keep the corner marks for now. Actually, yeah, I am. and because we're going to need that for the vertical scan. Normally, I would just follow up with it immediately, but we are doing horizontal logic right now. I know it's a little frustrating to not skip ahead, but you can skip ahead in your own solves as long as you trust your memory. And I do, when I do the hard, I skip around. Okay, so there are actually only 4 left in this box as well, because we know where the 5, 8 are. They're in this pair here. We're not going to need another 5, 8 in here. So these are down to 4. And they're specifically 1, 2, 3, and 6. So this one's not a 6. This is 1, 2, 3, and this one's not a 1. So this is 2, 3, 6. So we got actually every single cell marked in this band here. So there's nothing else to do unless you see things matching up. Like, did you find that maybe there's a hidden in a row, or maybe did you find that there's claiming you didn't notice, or did you find that you found like a pair or a triple that's useful? I don't see anything like that, so we're going to move on. So we're just going to do the same thing with this band. I'm going to choose this middle box as my starting point because it has 2 givens in it. So there is not a 2 in either of these, but there is a 3 buddy over here. So we can actually corner mark 3 in all 3 of these cells. Nothing up here removes 3. And then we have the 6 and the 4 that we just have to compare over here. The 6 does not have a buddy, but the 4 does. So these 4s look into here. We have this 4 way up here that looks down. That lets us place a 4. Now, you can already see from my red marks what this does, but this 4 is going to affect cells that we've marked earlier. We need to follow up on it. So if we look up from this 4, we can see that we have this cell marked as 1 or 4, but actually it cannot be a 4. It must be a 1 now. 4 is no longer a possibility for this cell. There's 2 things we could do. We could use our center marks or our corner marks. Let's actually start with the corner marks. This 4 corner mark was removed. When we remove a corner mark, we want to check the rest of the box to see how many of those corner marks are remaining. And the answer is only 1 4 remains. So that is a hidden single 4 in the box now. That's what's powerful about our corner marks. We don't have to re-look. You can see these 4s look in. These aren't 4. And so actually this is the only place for 4 in the box, but the corner mark's already telling us that. So I can place the 4. But when I do so, I have now displaced a 3 corner mark. That means there's 1 fewer 3 corner mark in the box. This is the only one left. So I can place a 3 there, which displaced a 9 corner mark. Now this is the only place for 9 in the box. So I can place the 9 there. And then now that displaced a 1 corner mark, or you can just say the box is done except 1 digit. You can always fill that last one unless you broke the puzzle. So we can fill it in that order. We can say hidden single 4, 3, 9, then 1. Or you can fill it basically in the opposite order and say, well, this cell was only 1 or 4. Let me undo again here. This cell was only 1 or 4, and now it can't be 4. So if there is only 1 candidate remaining that it can be, so it must be. And that's called a naked single. Naked techniques use the center marks that we put in cells. They use the candidates that are remaining in the cell. And a naked single is probably the easiest one to understand, which is if I don't put a 1 here, I'm not putting anything here because it can't be anything else. So I must put the 1 in there because every cell needs a digit in it. And so now that that's a 1, this one can't be a 1 anymore. And so we can place the 9. This is a naked single 3. This is naked single 4. No matter how you do it, it does resolve the same way, obviously. Now we want to follow up horizontally here. So for example, this 3 takes 3 out of these 2 cells. So actually 3 ends up in one of these 2. If 3 is in one of these 2, that does point left and say this cell can't be 3 anymore. So this cell is no longer a 3 because of pointing 3s here, which means there's only one place for 3 left in this box. We could have had 3 corner marked in these 2. I didn't notice that, but we could have done that. And had we done that, we would have 3 corner marks here that now tell us this is a hidden 3. We also see that this 1 removes 1 as an option from this cell, so it must be 2, but also it's only the only place for 2 left in the box if we look at our corner marks. And we are left with this 1, 6 pair. I don't need the corner marks since they're a pair. I'd like to remove clutter as I can. So that did a lot horizontally. We haven't done our vertical scans yet, so I'm not going to bother with the vertical scans yet because we can just do that when we do that. We want to follow up on things that we've already notated because we're not going to do another pass on it. Follow-ups allow you to avoid repeating stuff you've already looked at. Okay. So that was this 4. That was the buddy from this 4 here. Now we want to just look real quick to see if we have any filled rows or columns that might be helpful. And we don't have any. I am seeing some things to do, but that's going to happen in our second phase. We haven't even finished our first phase yet, which is scanning bands and stacks for duplicates. But that does finish the scan for our bands. We have finished all 3 bands, and you can see even just doing the 3 bands systematically and limiting what we look for We have already completed a lot of the puzzle. Doing this vertical scan is going to complete it even more. I don't think it's going to finish it though. But the vertical scan, we're doing the same thing. I'm going to start with this 7. It does have a buddy 7 down here. So that puts a 7 in one of these 3 cells. And now I can just look at 3, 4, 5, and 8 here. Let's start with the 3. The 3 does have a buddy. So 3 is in one of these 3. The 4 has a buddy as well. And this 4 looks in. So we have the 4 here. The 5 has a buddy. 5 is in one of these 2. And the 8 has a buddy. That puts an 8 up here somewhere. So we suddenly just got a bunch of corner marks all in this box. They aren't telling us anything specific yet. I'm not seeing any specific overlaps, for example. Like you might think for a second that this 3 and 8 overlap, but they're also in this 3rd cell. So you can't do a hidden pair out of that. Okay. Now, what else do we do before we move on from a horizontal or vertical scan like this is we look for rows, columns, boxes with 4 or fewer open cells. This column here is down to 4. So we want to, when it's 4, we think about it. When it's 3, you can just blindly pencil it and then go from there. But thinking about it's always a good idea, to be honest. Anyway, as opposed to not thinking. Okay, so we need 1, 5, 6, and 9. I'm seeing this sees 1 and 6, so this is down to only 5, 9. This can't be 1, so this is 5, 6, and 9. This one's already marked, and this one's not 5. So this is 1, 6, and 9 as well. And we already knew the 5 was limited up here, so we knew this couldn't have been the 5. I'm not seeing anything to do with that immediately. You do want to check horizontally as well, and in the box, but I don't see anything. This is down to 5 open cells. Don't let this trick you. This is still an open cell. So this is 5, this is 6. I would not look at it right now. I would move on. So let's move on to this stack here. I'm just going to start with this top one here. The 1 does have a buddy. No 1s around here. So there's a 1 in one of these 3. The 4 actually has 2 buddies, so it's done. We don't need to worry about it. There are 2 7s here, and that puts a 7 in one of these 2. I probably would have placed these 7s as soon as I placed this 7, just so I wouldn't forget, and maybe it would be useful. It actually wouldn't have been useful up to this point anyway, but you never know. Now we're just going to compare the 2, 3, 4 against this one, right? So everyone's going to have a buddy because this box is full, right? So these 2s look in, so there's a 2 in one of these 2. And I'm always scanning left, right to see if there's a consequence to that. And if there ever is, I will let you know what to look for there. And there are 2 3s looking up here, putting a 3 in one of these 2. This should trigger something we've already talked about. This is a hidden pair. We can convert these corner marks to center marks. So that is a 2, 3 hidden pair. The only 2 places in the box 2 and 3 can go, so they must go there. We can use center marks to denote that. So what do we do when we find a hidden pair? We follow up, and we follow up by thinking about what digits were removed. Well, they already couldn't have been 1. 2, 3 are already possible for them. We don't want to think about that. 4, 5, 6, 7 were already not possible, but 8 and 9 looked very possible. So first thing to think about, let's think about 8 in this box. Well, we have this 8 down here. We're going to have everything in this box, right? But we have this 8 conveniently taking it out of these. And then these aren't 8 anymore because of the hidden 2, 3 pair. So we can corner mark 8s in one of these 2 cells. Let's follow up on that because we just did a vertical scan. This 8 counts as a buddy because this 8 points down and says no more 8s in the column. And this 8 also looks down. This 8 looks in. So we can actually corner mark 8s in this box down here. We also said 9 was removed from these. So let's look at how that affects the box. This 9 looks up. These aren't 9. This isn't 9. Unfortunately, no 9s left and right. That would have been very nice, but it does put a 9 in one of these 2. That counts as a buddy for our scan. This 9 points down. These corner mark 9s point down. This 9 looks down. Puts a 9 in one of these 3. And actually, if you didn't already realize that this was going to be a triple, now these corner marks are telling you that because it is 3 corner marks exactly overlapping in 3 cells. So we can convert those to center marks. And that's what you would have seen had you just looked at what was left, because 2, 3 are removed from these. They already can't be 2, 3. So they were actually down to 1, 8, 9 the whole time. We're going to follow up on that in a second. I want to see if the 2, 3 affects the, we looked at how it affects the column in the box. We just want to quickly look to see if it affects the rows. I'm not really seeing how it would. 8 and 9 are already very open in the rows in this band here, so we're going to ignore that. But this 1, 8, 9 triple is signaling us to go, well, I know basically where the 1, 8, 9 are in this box. So what are the other 3 digits in this box? Let's just think about it. The box still needs, it has the 1, right? The 1's in here somewhere. It's not going to have a 1 elsewhere. It's got the 2, 3, 4, but we are going to need a 5, 6, 7, and we know where the 8, 9 is. So 5, 6, 7 is what's left. I'm seeing that we have this 6 here looking in, and these aren't 6, so we can actually place the 6 in the box. This has actually been a hidden 6 in the box for a while. I was ignoring it because we would have found it through another means later. But this is a good enough way to find it also. So this 6 looks in, this 6 looks down. That places the 6 in this box. It's the only place for 6. Follow up on that. That removed a 7 corner mark. So now in this box, 7 can only go here. And then this is just the other digit we needed. This is the 5. So we need to make sure we follow up on this. This 7 does remove this 7 corner mark from the row. It doesn't really affect anything vertically. We already know about the other 7s. This 6 removes 6 as an option from this center mark here. And we want to think about, okay, we already scanned the band, but the 5 and the 6 have a buddy now. So the 6's buddy looked in. It says 6 is in one of these 2. And then the 5's buddies look into here, putting a 5 in one of these 3. We can also follow up vertically. The 5 has a buddy here, looking up. That puts a 5 in one of these 2. 2 corner marks. You can also just see that this column needs 5 and 9, and they go here. But we also just have 2 overlapping corner marks. However you find it, you end up with 5, 9 center marked here. I am looking to the left. I'm seeing this 5, 9, which unfortunately doesn't line up with it. I'm also seeing this 5, 6, 9, which may come in handy if the 6 gets removed. This could end up being a 6, in which case that's not going to happen, but it could end up being a 5, 9 pair. So I'm just taking mental note of that stuff. And we know this is going to end up a pair as well, no matter how you think about it. We have this, we know where all the digits except 2 in this box are. We know where all the digits except 2 in this column are. What are those 2 digits? They are the 6 and the 8. So we can just center mark 6, 8 here. All right. Here's another follow-up we can do. By placing this 7 and 5, this row is now down to 4 open cells. Always good to think about it, at least. What are the cells? 1, 2, 8, 9 are the cells. So this can be anything but 8. So this is 1, 2, 9. This can't be 9. So this is 1, 2, 8. And do remember to look at your corner marks in the box as well to make sure you're not over marking. And this can't be 1. So this is 2, 8, 9. Okay. We also placed the 6. This row is down to 5 open cells. We don't really care about that right now. And then let's see, the 6, the 5, and the 7. Does the 7 affect anything? Not that I can tell. So I think we did our follow-ups. This stack is basically done. So we have basically basically a band done, basically a stack done. We're going to do this final stack, and then we'll move on to the next phase. So look for buddies. This 4 and 6 are where I'm going to start, because I can just compare against these 2. So we have a buddy for the 4. This 4 looks in. That places the 4 here. Follow up, especially horizontally. That removes this 4 corner mark. There's only one place for 4 in this box now, right here, based on our corner marks. So we can place the 4 here as well. That actually finishes our 4s. We have all of our 4s now. So not much more to follow up with that. It didn't fill up a row or column or anything like that. This 6 has a buddy. So we can corner mark 6s in here if we'd like to. You can see at this point that our corner marks just mimic our center marks in this box. So we could also just remove all the corner marks and be pretty happy with that. Cleans it up a little bit. Okay, as long as you're good at recognizing where these things actually ended up, but it'll just resolve itself very easily. So I'm very much okay with removing those corner marks. I'm also okay with leaving them if that's helpful for you. I try to reduce clutter as much as possible. I think that's helpful. Okay, so that was the buddies for these. Is there a buddy for, other than 6, 4, is there a buddy for 1, 7? Yeah, the 7 has a buddy. So 7's in one of these 2. Okay. Last thing we want to look for in this stack, rows, columns, boxes with 4 or fewer open cells. I'm not seeing any. So we can skip that. Okay, and that finishes phase 1. After phase 1, you can see we actually got a lot of information. I think you'll find in the mediums you get more information than in the hards, but it is always useful information. We've seeded the grid with a ton of really good information here. And in fact, the puzzle's almost done, I'm suspecting. But we're going to go on to the next phase. The next phase, we're going to go box by box, looking for a specific thing that I call crossings. Basically, this is going to catch the limitations within the boxes that we missed on our first pass because we weren't looking at how the band and the stack interact with each other to affect the single box. And that's on purpose. Normally what you would be doing is you'd be looking for both of those at once in your scans of bands and stacks, but I think that's too much to focus on at once, and you're going to miss stuff if you're newer to Sudoku. So there's no reason not to just wait till phase one's done. And now things are much more clear what's going on, and we're going to have a lot more placed in these boxes, and we didn't have to worry about trying to follow up on all those digits as we went. So what we're looking for is pairs of givens in the box. And pairs of givens are always going to have at least one row and one column that they don't occupy. And what you want to do is you want to scan the row, one of the rows or columns they don't occupy, like here. And you want to look for anything that's not already placed in the box. So we've got the 1 and the 6 not yet placed in the box. And you're going to look at the column that they don't, in this case, there's only one row and one column that they don't occupy, right? This row and this column can go straight through without touching them. So we want to look we want to look for a 1 and a 6 in this column here. Unfortunately, we don't have those. So no go. We just move on to the next. That's the only pair of givens. So we just move on to the next one. I would focus primarily on givens that share a row, a column. In this case, they share a row. So there's a single column that they don't occupy. And then there's going to be 2 rows they don't. And you're going to look for repeats between the column and the 2 rows. So that isn't already placed. Now, the problem is with this box, we can skip it, right? We can skip this box as we already have it completely center marked. We know where everything goes, basically. Now, this box I'm particularly interested in because we didn't even end up with any corner marks in it. So maybe we missed something. I'm going to start with this 6, 4. We're going to look at this column. Unfortunately, 4 and 6 are the only digits known. So that's not helpful. I'm going to look at this 4, 1. Unfortunately, 4 and 7 are already in the box. This is probably why we ended up with no corner marks. I'm going to look at the ones, this 7, 1. Let's look at that. So we have the 9. So the 9, look at what the 9 does, right? It goes right through this 1, 7. And so there's already 5 cells in this box that aren't 9. We can add this one as a 6. Unfortunately, there's no 9 over here to finish the deal, right? Imagine if there was if this cell was a 9, right? We'd be able to place 9 in this box. Even if this cell was a 9, we'd still have a corner mark 9 in this box, and that would point in. But unfortunately, we don't have any 9s over here. So no go on that. We can also look at these like 7, 6 here. Unfortunately, there's nothing in this column. There's nothing in this row that's helpful. In fact, there's nothing at all over here that's helpful. So we could have just immediately ruled out that we're not going to find anything because 1s, 4s, and 7s are the only digits we know about, and those are already placed in the box. So we could have skipped that box. I'm skipping this entire band because we already know everything we need to know about these boxes, and what crossings are going to do is give you more information about a box. But we already have full information about these boxes. How about this box here? So let's look at the 3, 4 here. 3, 4, 5, 8 are already placed, all of them. So we don't have to care about anything to do with this column. So what about the 4, 5 like this? So we've got the 2. So let's think about what's happening with the 2. Well, look, we finally found something. Okay, so we have a crossing on this 4, 5. So what does that mean? It means that we have this 4, 5 here. And in this row, we discovered there is a 2. And then in this column, we discovered there's a 2. So what we did is we looked at this row for any givens that weren't already placed in the box. And then we looked in these 2 columns because that aren't the green ones, right? That aren't shared with the green cells. Notice that these 2 columns in this row are not shared with the 2 green cells. And we looked for a duplicate. We found a duplicate 2. So we have these 2 2s. That's always going to do something interesting. Look at how they affect this box. This 2 looks in, this 2 looks in. That's already 5 cells that aren't 2. And then the green cells also aren't 2 by design. And so there are only 2 places left in this box for 2. These 2, we can corner mark that. And those 2s are going to point. Those 2s point up saying these are not 2. We also have this 2, which we knew was going to be there, is pointing up saying these aren't 2. That puts a 2 in one of these 3 cells. Now, this might be a little bit hard to see, but we have found a hidden triple. It is a 2, 3, 8 hidden triple in this box. The 2, the 3, and the 8 need 3 cells in the box, and these are the only 3 cells all of them can be in. Isn't that crazy? Ignore this one corner mark here, right? The 2, the 3, and the 8 completely overlap in 3 cells. It's the same logic as the hidden pair. It's just 3 and 3 instead of 2 and 2. So how could these cells be anything other than 2, 3, 8? The answer is they can't be. They have to be 2, 3, 8. So we can take these 2, 3, 8s, put them in this. We can remove the corner marks. And that also removed a 1 corner mark. This cell that cannot be 1 anymore, because if it was 1, we would not be able to fit the 2, 3, and 8 into this box. That's called a hidden triple. So remember, hiddens remove other candidates from those cells. So 1 was removed from here. That leaves only one place for 1 in this box, right there. That means this cell can't be 1. And in fact, if we look at how 1 is affected in this box here, if we just follow up vertically, 1 goes all the way through here. These are all not 1, so 1 ends up in one of these two cells. And in fact, how does that affect this column? Well, we need 1 and 6 still in this column, and they don't go up here anymore. So this is a 1-6 pair for the column here. Additionally, we did get this 1, and that reduced this column down to 4 open cells. So we want to take a little gander at what digits are remaining. We need the 2, 6, 7, and 9. So we know this cell can't be 2, so this is 6, 7, 9. This cell can't be 6, so this is 2, 7, 9. Okay. And then 2, 6, 7, 9, this can't be 6 or 7, so this is 2, 9 only. Not much to do to follow up on those at the moment. But you can see that this stack is basically done. We have it marked up. Oh no, there is something to do. We have a 2, 9 pair. This is a naked pair in this column. I'm sorry I didn't spot that. When I filled in this as 2, 9, I should have noticed that immediately. I did not. That's something I try to follow up on, but I thought maybe I didn't follow up properly, so I rescanned really quickly, and I did see that. So what do I mean by naked pair? We haven't had one of those yet. This cell here, we looked at what candidates were remaining in this cell, and it was down to only 2 and 9. This cell here, also only down to 2 and 9. And they share a column. When two cells share a column, they cannot have the same digit as each other. So they cannot both be 2, and they cannot both be 9. That breaks Sudoku. So the only other option is one of them is 2, and one of them is 9. There's no other option, right? We can't have them both be 2, both be 9, and can't have one of them empty. So one of them will end up 2, one of them will end up 9, which means we basically know where the 2 and the 9 go in this column. They go here. So how could they also go down here? And the answer is they don't. So this cell can't be 2, 9. We can remove all the 2s and 9s from here. And this cell can't be 2 or 9. We can remove all the 2s and 9s from here. So 2 and 9 is removed from the rest of the column. Anything that's not green here. Let's remove the green though. So now you can see this is a naked single 7. This is now a naked single 6, naked single 1, naked single 9, naked single 2. And from here, we're going to get a lot of cascades. Just look at my red markings here, and you'll see what I'm seeing in terms of the digits we placed created naked singles. So this is a 6 and a 1. Up here, we get the 5 and the 9 and the 6. Only thing not resolved is this 2, 3, 8 triple. Let's go back down here. We end up with the 9 here. And then over here, these can't be 2. This 7 removes a 7 corner mark. There's now only one 7 corner mark in this box. We can place it. When we do that, we create a hidden 3, 5 pair here. That also is just what's remaining for the row. But also, we end up with this cell seeing a 6 because we placed this 6 over here. The red marks help us follow up on when we get these huge cascades. This whole box, it finishes except the 5, 8 pair. This 6 actually finishes the 6, 8 pair. And that should be all of the cleanups. Now we'll notice, because we got this down to 2, 3, this is now a naked 2, 3 pair. So where do the 5 and 9 go in this row? Well, they go here, but this one can't be 9. So actually, this cell is a naked single 5. Or if you prefer, there is only one place for 9 in this row, which is right here. So that's a hidden single 9. There's always going to be a corollary between hidden and naked. You can't get away from that. They're very similar techniques that are joined together to sum to how many open cells are left in the row or column or box. Anyway, this 5 makes this naked 3 and 5, 8 and 5. At this point, I'm just going to kind of plonk the digits that are remaining. And we're going to forget all of the other strategies because we're literally just down to singles. So we might as well just do that. I'm just referencing the row to see this can only be 2, 3, 8, but also the column says not 8. So this is down to 2, 3, which means 8 in this row only goes here. Or you can use the naked 2, 3 pair to make this an 8. Okay, we're down to a bunch of 2, 3s. We're down to this 1, 8. 9 in this row can only go here. Or if you prefer, the 1, 8 pair makes this a 9. Again, there's always going to be hidden versus naked that add to the number of open cells left, right? I'm just thinking about what this box needs. It needs a 1, 2, and 8. Neither of these can be 1, so the 1 ends up here. That's 8, that's 1. This can't be 8, so this is 2, this is the 8. We get the 3, the 2, the 3, the 2, and the 3. And up here we've got 2, 8, and 9. So the 2 has to go here, the 8 has to go here, and the 9 has to go here, and we're done. And again, I take my time on these mediums. I'm expecting 30 to 45 minutes on all of these puzzles because of the in-depth explanation that I do. If your times are worse than that on mediums, that means you have a lot of room to improve using this technique, because it goes way faster when you're not explaining everything. Once you understand the different things to look for and the effect they have, you're going to solve this puzzle. Even if you do it systematically, you're going to solve this puzzle in under 20 minutes. So if that's a goal for you, definitely follow along with my medium solves every day. Cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. In terms of recap, we got a lot out of our initial scan. This whole band and this whole stack essentially finished from our initial scan. And then there were just a sprinkling of a few things in some of the boxes that we didn't notice because we were only looking for buddies horizontally or vertically. Whereas like things like, let's see, what was the thing that was especially useful? Yeah, like things like these 2 6s looking into this box would have been especially useful to notice earlier, right? So maybe you should start thinking about what were the things I could have noticed earlier had I expanded what I was looking for just a smidge? And do I think I'm ready to expand and look for that also on my initial pass? And feel free to do so. And that would be things like how are these different givens looking in that are maybe not, they may be buddies in a non-traditional way, non-traditional couples here, where one's in a row and one's in a column. Maybe that affects the box in an interesting way, regardless. Things like that. But just to remember that you're going to have to go back and when you place digits, you're going to have to follow up on that too. So it is an extra mental load, which is why I'm doing these one thing at a time. But feel free to create whatever hybrid strategy works best for you. All right, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. And if you did, then why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below.